From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? If you didn't catch our last episode, we have a returning guest to introduce, and we're real excited about that.
I'm doing good, Steve. Yep. Again, we got a great guest. Look forward to the questions you're going to bring, and hopefully you're doing well.
Yes, I am, and look forward to this conversation. It's always interesting when we have the ability to turn the tables a bit, and we have a guest who takes the mic and asks us questions, and James and I get to provide some perspective, and it's certainly a lively conversation that we hope is valuable to everybody that's listening. So, without further ado, we get to welcome back Dan Ferrisi, Group Editor, Commercial and Security with Emerald, and his publications are Commercial Integrator and Security Sales and Integration. Welcome back, Dan.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, James. Really appreciate being invited back. It's always a joy to spend time with you, learn from you, share some of the reader questions that I receive with you. So, again, thanks for giving me the platform and the opportunity.
We always, as I said, welcome you back, and you've been our most frequented guest, and we always tend to see our listenership increase. So we're doing something right, and thanks for the relationship and all you do for the AV community.
You're doing a lot right, I have to say. This is a fantastic pod, and episode after episode, conversation after conversation, guest after guest. Always really interesting. Always learn something.
Thanks so much. And if you haven't caught some of the past episodes, Dan was recently on our 212, which was our last episode, as well as 199 and 200, and a host of others prior to that. So catch up on your listening. You'll hear a lot from Dan. Uh, so Dan, I know that there's been a lot of great discussions within the commercial integrator and security integration community about hot button topics, and I think you have one of those to bring to us today. So I'll pass it over to you.
Exactly right. Yeah, when we were on episode 212, I mentioned how much I love being a conduit for our readers. They don't always necessarily have access to James and you every single day, but I have the fortune of being on this pod, so I can kind of be a conduit for some of their questions that they'd like to ask you. And this is one of them that I received. Do you believe the vendor community is slowly moving away from the walled garden approach and embracing the idea of being part of the rather than the entire solution? If so, to what extent are industry leading vendors embracing open APIs and actually making investments to facilitate product interoperability? Thoughts?
I could speak on this for quite some time, and I will. James, you could jump in if you'd like to start, and I'll follow up afterward.
Sure. I know you can definitely dive into this way more than I can. I I feel there is a change. We went from being open, because that's what we did. We were integrators. We took pieces that didn't talk to each other and made them talk to each other. And then, the manufacturers took light to that, saw that, and they're like, oh, we're going to build this walled garden, this ecosystem. Because, again, like I said last episode, a lot of things boil down to money. Manufacturers want you to stay with them so they can offer you all the products, and you stay with them. Hey, great. More money to manufacture. But like any good business is when you realize you can only, if you strive away from what you do best, then your quality goes down. And a lot of people started seeing that with these walled gardens. The quality went down. Yeah, I could buy everything in the kitchen sink under them, but the quality wasn't there. So integrators started going back to what our roots of making different products work with each other. And again, I think manufacturers took light to this, saw that, hey, best business decision for us is to get back to what we do best and focus on what we do best. And let's play a little bit nice with people. I won't say, they're in the sandbox being best friends with everyone. But I think there is some professionally relationships going on, allowing um, you know, us to do more than what we used to be able to do.
I totally agree with you, and I love the sentiment that what has been the root of integration is making products that are not meant to work together, and that's really why this industry has flourished for so long, to your point. And I think that that has um, been the beauty of what we do, and has been what is best for clients in that regard, in terms of, hey, let's take your equipment and make it easier for you, make it seamless, make it all work together, and put an icing on the cake, or give you this user interface that you're going to love, that is going to be customized to you. Now, I realize that times have changed, and that there has been a shift, and there has been an acceleration of having to bring projects to market, and there's been a lot more systems that require integration, that so that we've had to look at things a little bit differently, and the custom has to be on an as needed basis, more so than it was in the past. But what I've seen personally, and kind of lead up to this, is that we're recording this in 2025. Conversations that we had at ISC, conversations that I've been privy to through being involved in the HETMA virtual conference, manufacturers directly said to us that it is time to look at things a little bit differently, and we want to get back to being friendly with everybody, and we want to be able to ensure that we're not excluded from projects, and that we are looked at as being able to integrate with all the options that integrators need, and that end users, clients need. And I think that I know that COVID was the test case for that. We all saw that everybody scrambled to make things work, and those who were too ingrained in one platform suffered the most. And I'm not saying that it isn't good to be able to invest in a platform, but it's a good to invest in a platform that provides flexibility, and provides the opportunity to use any type of equipment that it makes sense to use, that a client is looking for. And but the to talk to what James said, is that a lot of manufacturers started to, they were all playing in each other's playground, and they all were trying to own the client, and keep them close by doing a walled garden. But that's not the best way of doing it. Do it based on earning their trust, and earning their loyalty by providing the great products, and and meeting them where they are, and giving them the flexibility to be able to integrate with whatever products they choose to use, rather than telling them this is how it's going to get done.
Such an important point. And the way that I would think about it is, do you want to hoard all the pieces of a shrinking pie, or do you want to have your share of an ever-growing pie? And it seems like from the conversations that you're alluding to, vendors are increasingly recognizing that hoarding the small pie is not as wise as getting your share of the big growing pie. And that is working with others and not trying to lock them in only to you.
It absolutely is the case that I see, in that, and I think that the voice of technology managers, and that's why I have the utmost respect for those who are in-house integrators. They're the ones that have to be listened to, because they're the ones that are closest to the purse strings. And I think that if they say that this is the way we need to have it done, that's what needs to be listened to and heard. Because if you're not, I think you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, and I think that's why you're seeing tech managers get better educated. Uh, the group, HEPMA, all those organizations out there that are providing the knowledge to our tech managers are great. I mean, anyone who's been following me will know recently I just got my CTS, um, because it's a shine showing that us in-house integrators or tech managers are taking this seriously. because I'm going to say it. I feel for the longest time early on that higher ed places that did not have tech managers or an educated tech manager in the field got taken advantage of. Manufacturers like, you need all this bells and whistles. Hey, you need a disco ball in your classroom. And people are like, all right, you're the expert. And now I'm finding that, as tech managers are like, hey, no, I don't need a disco ball in my classroom. I can get away with just getting this stuff done. And put a lot of pressure on these integrators and I'm gonna say on these outside integrators who upsell. And I can't blame them. They're a business, they're trying to make money. But now we are finding that common ground. Like, yeah, I don't need a Lamborghini in a classroom when a Ford Pinto will do just fine.
Well, it makes me think of some of the conversations I've had with HETMA members about, there was a time when they would go to a show like Infocom and they would not necessarily be all that sought after because they would only be about the integrator or the channel partner. But now their opinions and their guidance are being sought after. People want to meet with them. That end user, that HETMA badge means a lot. And hopefully that means something of a paradigm shift so people are becoming more empowered and it's a more collaborative relationship between the vendor and the integrator and the end user, the in-house integrator, however, whatever permutation it takes, that it's ultimately about facilitating the best possible outcome rather than, again, trying to say, I'm going to get mine. Whatever they do is theirs, but I want to get mine and I want to get mine now. Hopefully, it's much more collaborative than that. And I hope that the open arms that people like you, James, and other HEPMA members are greeted with at shows now is an auspicious sign.
It is. I remember when I started going to trade shows, I went to a NAB conference in New York. And I went to some of the education sessions, great sessions, and I started walking the floor. And I will not name the manufacturer, but I walked in their booth and they had AV, stuff for higher ed that we could use in classroom. They looked at me and they're like, "Oh, who you with?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm with this university." They're like, "Oh," and they turned away and walked away from me. And I was like, okay, I will never look at that company's product again because of that. They want nothing to do me. Now I go Infocom, I'm having manufacturers pull me into their booth because they see the HETMA or the higher ed badge saying, hey, we need your input on this. We need to hear your pain points. We need all this. Can we help you? So there has been a huge shift in that. I like I said, we get pulled into the hush rooms now because they want to hear what we have to say.
I mean, I don't have much perspective that I could provide on that, but I think that the comment that I would make is that if our industry is not taking that seriously, then I think that they are missing the boat, and I think that it's time that um, the on our last episode we talked about change. Here's another example of change, and change is not always something to fear. Change is just something to say this is going to be new, and how am I going to adapt and adjust to it?
I mean, it's all ultimately about delivering the best outcome for the client. So if the client feels locked in and constrained by a closed garden system, that's not going to probably give them the best outcome. The integrator wants to be able to work collaboratively with the client or the in-house integrator to make sure everyone is getting what they want. Ultimately, the communication lines have to be open. I think we have to be less hoarding minded and more collaboration minded, more interoperability minded, and just more collaborative.
I
I
agree. And I think not to harp on this, but I do feel manufacturers are really coming around. They saw the value that higher ed brings and that the user brings. Not just higher ed, there's a lot of tech managers in other fields that bring great value. And I think COVID and the chip shortage helped with that because we all saw, you couldn't go to your trusted brand. Sometimes you had to go to brand Z down the list just because that was available during chip shortage. Well, early on in the whole process, the feeling I got from some of the manufacturers I talked to were, well, we're the big guys. Who are you going to go to? You're just going to wait for us. and people didn't, and they saw that, and then they're like, wait, and their tune changed. So yeah, I think they started realizing now there are options out there, and we need to play nice.
The other comment that I'll make and kind of bring this back to the programming community is that independent programmers, we were a very lost group when we first started out, and that's over 20 years ago. I mean, my company's been in business for 28 years, and we are just starting to see gain acceptance in a lot of areas. So, I think I give the technology managers a lot of credit for being able to make the impact that they've made for so long. But we too, we don't sell anything or buy anything, so we're not necessarily on people's radar, but we do play an integral role in ensuring that projects get done and that there's that deadlines are met and that clients get the outcomes that they're looking for. So, but it's a very interesting to kind of see that repetitive pattern.
Well, I think you guys did a great job answering my reader question. Thank you so much again for giving me the opportunity to be that conduit and get our readers' questions answered right here on Ask the Programmer. Always very helpful.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for being part, and we look forward to the next opportunity to have you on, which I'm sure will be before we know it, and we'll have some more insight. And if there are some follow-up questions, either that you receive from your audience or that the Ask the Programmer community provides, we'll be happy to discuss them, and we'll keep many of these conversations that require attention moving forward. Dan, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about the work that you do with Emerald, and also any things that you like to promote?
Well, again, thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, James, for having me. I never take for granted the invitations to come on the show. I really do appreciate them. You can find me on LinkedIn. That tends to be the social platform I am most active on these days. You can also go to commercialintegrator.com if you're on the AV side or securitysales.com if you're on the security side. I hope to see everyone in Denver this September at CD Expo and Commercial Integrator Expo. It's going to be the place to be this fall for all forms of AV integration, whether it's custom home or whether it's professional. And of course, Total Tech Summit, our entrepreneurial thought leadership conference taking place in Orlando in November. It's invite only, so do go ahead and apply to attend if you are an integrator and you'd like to be part of this entrepreneurial community. And of course, there are also some sponsor slots left for direct access to those influential integrators. Hope to see you at TotalTechSummit.com and at Total Tech Summit itself in November.
Great conference, and I highly recommend that those who qualify do apply, and you'll find you'll get a lot of value out of the time that you invest there. So thanks, Dan, for sharing, and thanks for being on again.
Thank you. Truly appreciate it.
James, how can people get in touch with you, learn what you're up to, and continue some of our conversations?
I again, you want to get a hold of me, I'm out there. You can Google me, you'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn with Ask the Programmer Community, X as AB_James King. Again, I'm out there, HEPMA, anything like that. But what I really would like our listeners to do is, reach out. Let us know questions you have. If you don't want to, come reach out to Steve or myself, you can always reach out to Dan. Dan does a good job of facilitating these questions and bringing them to us. So definitely get out there because I know we all have questions and we love answering them. So definitely get them out there.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's great advice, and that's really one of the reasons why we titled our podcast what we did. So it's two things that we stand for is to build community amongst programmers and also answer those questions pertaining to control and programming. So um, wonderful way of putting that, and hopefully that's encouragement for those out there who haven't reached out to us yet. And in that same spirit, please share this episode as well as any others that are your favorites. The more our listeners, the more exposure we can get, the greater the community, the more value it provides, and the more we also can know that we're hitting the mark. So please do that. For me, you could reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast. And in the spirit of what we discussed, what we do is we help manufacturers and control platforms work together, and that adds to this interoperability idea and is great ways to be able to provide more of the building blocks that programmers need to succeed, and provide more of the integration between products. So those can all be found at controlconcepts.net. As James mentioned, the LinkedIn community Ask the Programmer is a great way to get involved and to carry on these conversations. So please check that out. And we have a video version on YouTube and an audio version that is in your favorite podcast player. So you can catch us in more than one way, and great ways to be able to share the podcast as well. And until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.